Good evening, everyone. I'm calling the Palm Springs International Airport Commission meeting to order October 18, 5:30 p.m. and posting of the Pledge of Allegiance. So we were all right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Doug. Agenda has been posted, Christina.
Yes, the agenda's been posted.
What's it about?
We're good. We're good.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, for those commissioners on Zoom, please unmute your mics at this time. Commissioner Adams,
Present.
Banks,
Present.
Behrman,
Present.
Burke is excused, Caldwell,
Present.
Corcoran,
Present.
Dada,
Here.
Delgado,
Here.
Feltman,
Here.
Fong,
Present.
Hughes,
Present.
Martin,
Present.
Michaelis,
Here.
Park,
Present.
Pye,
Here.
Suero,
Here.
Wise,
Present.
Wiseman,
Present.
Young.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, everyone. At this time, I would like to see if you can entertain a motion to accept the agenda as written. So we have a motion second, Christina Rosales.
Give me 1 second. Adams,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Behrman,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Dada,
Here.
Delgado,
Yes.
Feltman,
Here. Yes.
Fong,
Aye.
Hughes,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Michaelis,
Yes.
Park. Yes. Pye,
Yes.
Suero,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
All right, at this time, I would like to open public comments here as well as on Zoom. And the comments are limited to 3 minutes. Christina, do we have anyone that would like to speak to the commission?
We do not have any scheduled public speakers for this evening. We'll give it a moment to see if anyone in the public would like to raise their virtual Zoom hand on Zoom to speak at this time. Please raise your virtual Zoom hand if you would like to speak in public comments at this time. We do not have any public speakers this evening.
Thank you. I'll close the public comments and we're gonna move on, and I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Chairman Dada,
Yes.
I do want to point out that Commissioner Wiseman and Young contacted me to notify me that they both were excluded as present for the May 17th meeting. And Commissioner Wiseman made a minor adjustment to a comment that he had made in regards to Toro operating at the airport. And Commissioner Young also made a correction in his introduction statement. So I've made those corrections accordingly. So I'd like to ask that the motion be to approve the minutes with corrections, please.
Right, at this time, I will entertain the motion to continue with the corrections as specified by Christina for the month May 17th. So, second, so we have motion and second.
Okay, roll call vote. Adams,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Behrman,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Abstain.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Delgado.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dada,
Yes.
Feldman,
Yes.
Fong,
Abstain.
Hughes,
Yes.
Martin,
Abstain.
Michaelis,
Yes.
Park, abstain, Pye,
Yes.
Suero,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have a new commissioner, Dave Banks. And the Dave, can you give us the rest of the commissioner a brief bio of yourself, and thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. On a personal note, my family started my grandfather started a clothing business in Seattle, since the last the 40s, and so aviation has been a long time part of my family. It's called Kenmore Air, for anyone who's ever heard of it. Obviously it was water, so the notion of runways is somewhat foreign to me. I learned actually to fly on floats myself, but didn't do so well with that. On a professional note, I worked at Microsoft starting in '95, so for over 20 years in various roles, and more recently at a company called VMware. Doing mergers and acquisitions, my company's from people in 2 weeks by a larger firm, so I've been part of that transaction for last year and a half. So I'm excited to be here and be on the commission, so thank you.
And we are delighted to have you too.
Thank you.
7B, Jake Ingros here. Our new communications and marketing specialist.
Dick is with us on Zoom this evening.
Yes, hi everybody. Great to be with you this evening, and thank you so much to everybody who has welcomed me to the airport in my first couple of weeks here. Some of you might know me from television. I spent the last 5.5 years as a TV news reporter here in the Coachella Valley at KESQ News Channel 3, covering every corner of the valley over that time period. And so I know this community really well. I know this airport really well, and I'm super excited now to be representing it from here in the administration team.
Welcome, Jake, to our airport team.
Thank you so much.
Right, at this time, insert.
Oscars are new.
Yeah, the new intern in the Chief Department.
We're gonna have Jeremy Holmes back. We let him go on vacation. So luckily Oscar is willing to fill in.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Oscar Verdugo. I'm an associate with Bedford and Krieger. As Christina said, I'll be filling in tonight for Jeremy Holm. And it's such a pleasure to be here. I was born and raised here in the desert, so it's great to be back.
Nice.
Thank you. We'll let you Vice Chair take over the measure.
Let's do it. All right, so we're going to talk about Measure J. We have an exciting opportunity tonight to make some investments that we hope will have a significant impact on customer experience here at the airport. Just a reminder of what happened last meeting. We discovered we had $1.3 million, maybe $1.6 million.
Bless you.
You got $1.3 million right now, and at the end of this year, you'll have $1.5 million.
$1.5 million, right? We have $1.5 million to spend at Christmas. I can't wait. And we decided at that time that we passed on the recommendations from staff to give us an opportunity, both staff and commissioners, to recommend other potential investments that we think could have a significant impact. So what we've done in this spreadsheet, thanks to Christina for her help with this, there's certain proposed projects that overlap between staff and the commission, and those are the ones in the first bucket. Jeremy's here to help to provide some color commentary on this. There was a lot of support for a shade structure. We've been talking about this in a couple of years on the outside where Uber and the taxis are, and that's $1 million. It's been proposed that that would cost. Wi-Fi has been a big issue in the discussion around concessions and rolling out our new concessions piece and trying to update Wi-Fi across the airport. Probably one of our biggest complaints and objections we get from passengers is really bad Wi-Fi. This proposal would accelerate that and try to implement the Wi-Fi system faster. Derek got to help because the phase 1 of the shade piece, which is in the RJ terminal in TSA, is already in process, but it's on this list. Can you explain why that is and your thoughts on that?
Correct. So the dollars that are sitting here would be our share of that. So part of that, we got a grant from Visitor Greater Palm Springs, and they're covering, I think, a half match. So we're spending roughly 250,000. They cover 100,000. The 140 left would be coming out of our our cash. So that's why the estimated cost is actually going forward.
And similar to our last conversation, is this funded?
It would, yeah, essentially it would be funded because it would be coming out of our cash. So we already had budgeted for it.
Okay, so this is budgeted.
Yeah.
So do we agree that things that were already budgeted won't count for this discussion since you've already covered it in your budget?
I'm pretty sure it was in this year's.
Yeah, so, yes, so just so you know, so, the shade, the Wi-Fi, those two items were, well, design construction, that was all budgeted, in this fiscal year.
So can we then assume that will be implemented so we can pass on this in terms of this investment?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay,
It's gonna be pulling out of the airport fund balance, and then this is just a different pot of money that we would be using.
Right, you could still use Leonard J to pay for that. It would just allow us to have cash to do something different.
okay, all right. I think we decided that anything that had been budgeted, especially if it's going to be implemented in the next 12 months, we would take off this wish list and just focus on things that have not been budgeted. But I know the Wi-Fi is really important. There were a lot of one-on-one conversations we had with commissioners about supporting that because we get so many complaints on it. When do we think that will be done for operation?
That's tough, but it's in IT's hands right now, but we are making some progress, so the IT department should be bringing something to council pretty soon to purchase equipment. So there's kind of be multiple phases, so what we're gonna try to do is purchase equipment. We know that the equipment takes a really long time to get. So there could be some really long lead time, so we wanted to get ahead and get that done almost before the design. So we're purchasing all this Cisco equipment. We're gonna go and replace a lot of the wireless access points, maybe add some new ones with our own IT department while we're also in place kind of doing the design and putting out an RFP for the design to kind of fix the outdoor areas. Because we know we can't do that with our own staff. So there's kind of multiple phases, but we already have that dollar amount in the budget.
Got it.
If that.
Chris, does that make sense? And do you hear our sense of urgency about this, just in terms of how this gets pushed through?
Yeah, the whole Wi-Fi project, yeah. I was here last Friday. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, we just have to go through during the normal check.
And does all the commissioners here as well as on Zoom familiar with emergency funds?
I think for most of we talked about it at the last meeting, you know, with the sources of the funds and also what the intent of the funding was. Okay, so I'm gonna remove everything but say shaded structure from the shared piece. Okay. So we won't be voting for Wi-Fi or for shade or phase one of the shade area. Let's bounce down to what's been proposed specifically by the commissioners. Joe, you want to talk about your thoughts on the outdoor furniture?
Yeah, so keep in mind, everything that we do also should be in context or relevance to the master plan, which is not like yet gone past the initial stages. So some of these things should be relevant that were lasting. So something that's, we have historic designation for Western Terminal. Regardless of what phase we do, all those things that we have in here as a proposal are still will be utilized long term. And it's not that expensive. So the mid-century benches, the original manufacturer still makes them. They can duplicate the original ones, the UFO saucer circular benches there were two original to the airport. Some of the cement planting structures, the lettering on the airport originally was slightly different and it was bronze. That's very small amounts, like $3,000. But I had sent to Christine an entire list of the total cost for everything came out to 84,000. And of course, we have to allow 7 or 8% for any overrun. So very readily pricing. So it's still that 100,000 is fairly close to that's just a little high, but and it's something that would last a long time and it's historically appropriate and useful every day for people in general.
Joe, you make a really good point. We get to the update on the master plan. We've gone from 5 options to 2. We're going to update this a little bit later in our meeting. One of those includes this building and one of those does not include this building. So I wonder if that would affect our decision at this point, since we're not really sure which way we're going. We'll talk more about this when we get to that agenda item, but obviously if we weren't going to be using that building, maybe this wouldn't be the best, but it's going to be years before we get rid of this building or stop using it for the airport, so.
Even if you don't use it, still, all things that should be put forward there, like stuff on.
Everybody understand? I know there are pictures that were put in the package. Okay. Water fill station's pretty obvious. You see them in all sorts of airports. And I know, Jeremy, you said 50 grand. How many of those stations would 50 grand buy us?
It's 10 stations. It's to replace the existing stations.
That we have 10 of them?
Correct.
Okay, that's $50,000. Our installations, we pushed that off to the operations committee because they're in discussions around it. Why this got on was there's a lot of blank walls here, but I know that David Feldman's group and the operations team is working with the art folks to try to fill these walls. And they'll have an operations meeting, they'll be discussing this and reporting back. So we just put a TBD on that. Now, the projects by staff. I think these, Jeremy, I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but maybe you just want to review the list and do a little color commentary if you could. And I can't find am I looking for the workstations? That was also.
The workstations is included in charging stations inside concourses.
Got it. Okay, good. Jeremy, just want to walk through the list quickly?
Sure. So the restroom capacity, the 880 restroom renovations, that's are 10. So we have 5 sets of men's and women's restrooms. And so that's what we're currently going to be under design here pretty soon. So that is going to go to council and we'll start the design of those restrooms. We don't know yet what the cost of those restrooms is going to be. It's going to be pretty hefty. So that's why that dollar amount is on there. Carpet replacement in the main terminal lobby and security checkpoint. We know we need to upkeep our flooring, and so that has to do with carpet replacement there. Parking revenue system, our parking system is pretty outdated and needs to be replaced. And so that's has to do with all of our parking lots. The variable message signage digital, I believe this is this the VIP that we're talking about for the variable message? This is when you're coming into the airport and you see I don't know if everybody knows where the VIP is, but that's essentially when you come entering the main roadway and have the tent, the shade structures there. We use that building for security and badging. And there's some digital message boards there that we can no longer get parts to or fix. So that cost would be to replace that. Automated exit lanes. This is if you've flown through other airports, you see the kind of they're kind of glass structures. Instead of a rotating door, they have kind of doors that close, and there are these automated exit lanes, and a lot of airports are going to these, and they allow a lot more passenger throughput. So we're having a lot of issues with our rotating doors, and so we're trying to get that replaced. The RJ Concourse terminal improvements, inclined boarding bridges are still on here, so that would be, assembling boarding bridges at the RJ, which I think is probably, knowing what we're possibly doing with our master plan in that building may go away. I don't know that's a viable project still here. But moving along to the concession space, again, this says master plan will advise. So again, I think some of this space has to do with the same thing. We don't really know what we're doing with the master plan yet. Bono flooring, this is the concrete flooring you see upstairs. It's weathered and it needs some rejuvenation. So that's what the Bono flooring is to the concrete, the outdoor concrete space. Conference and meeting rooms, we obviously need some more space for conferences and meeting rooms. Desert landscape conversion, this has been something we've been talking about for a while and just haven't had the bandwidth to get to, but we're trying to get there to turn some of our turf areas over to the desert landscape. Landside wayfinding improvements, you've probably seen our signage, another issue that we haven't quite got to yet, that we're trying to get to refurbishing some of our landside wayfinding. Charging stations inside concourses. This would be, if you're familiar with other airports, sometimes they have those bar kind of structures that you can sit up with your laptop, and they're kind of self-contained charging stations. We don't have any of those here.
Like longer workstations, you've seen them in other airports.
Right. Playscape, this would be our outdoor playground for the little ones. It's starting to show its age, and so we'd like to get that replaced. airport technology, I'm not sure. Does anybody have any insight on the quiet airport technology? I'm not sure exactly what. they do.
Yeah,
Harold?
Commissioner Adams can speak to that.
Sure.
About that in recent meetings. Instead of having PA announcements, everyone talking over each other, most things are just automated by signage. The boarding, the PA announcements that are just all eliminated throughout the terminal, everything's got
Yeah, digital screens.
you basically have now, so it's started boarding, all that, so it eliminated a lot of the PA announcements.
Got it. And then, replacement of our monument signs. As you know, one of them got taken out by the recent storm. And, we kind of have different signage at different entrances. They're not all kind of, in sync with each other. And so we'd like to, replace the monument signage around the area.
So, do you have questions or do you want to advocate for any of these?
Now, we only have $1.5 million and we're gonna do all this stuff?
No, we gotta pick.
And we can't pick anything over $1.5 million, right?
You can.
Could.
You could.
All you have to do is ask you to put that.
It might take us a little while to build up to that, right?
That's a good question. I mean, like concession space is $6 million. I think that's gonna be managed to the concessions project. So some of these things will have funding from other places. But I think it's a point, we have $1.5 million to spend,
Okay.
and what's gonna have the greatest impact on customer experience?
So why did we remove the Wi-Fi consultant installation? I'm not,
It's already funded.
because it's already funded, even though it's not highlighted, it's already funded.
In fact, the first three are already funded.
Okay, so does staff have recommendations? What would be your top three? You guys are living and breathing this every day.
They're gonna get the vote as well, but go ahead.
It's like not-
No.
I just wanted to hear that.
Well, I think the list that we provided that I just went through are a pretty good list of projects. I think we're probably all thinking something different. I would assume, I don't know that we all have the same list. I don't know, Victoria, if you have any. But I think the top projects with shade structure, Wi-Fi. I mean, any of these projects that help us with our cash, taking a little bit of that cash away with Measure J funds is gonna help. I don't know, do you have any thoughts?
Really great.
I mean, restrooms would be a fantastic, the restrooms are gonna be very, very spendy. And, we don't know if we're gonna be able to get grant funding for that, we have so many other needs, we're getting grants for the baggage claim and the baggage handling system, and we're doing so much already with a lot of our money that's gonna be earmarked for pretty large projects, taxiways coming. So, restroom is a pretty high one on our priority.
Yeah, Jeremy,
Do you have any other?
all the comments that we get, social media, otherwise for the website, carpet and restrooms were the top two complaints that we get just from like an appearance standpoint.
Right, so if you earmark some of the money, obviously it would go to help pay for the restrooms, it wouldn't.
Any comments from the commissioners on Zoom?
I guess where I'm getting confused. Sorry, I guess where I'm getting confused is I just don't understand. You said the top three were funded, but then does that mean nothing else on this list is funded in the next year or two?
Well, like the shade structure.
Shade structure is not funded yet.
Not completely, it's partially, the 140 we listed for the shade structure, that's not the full amount. Part of the project is already funded by,
So it's a grant match that you're providing
Right,
out of your regular budget.
right.
And
So,
some
for
of them
example-
are already, go ahead, sorry.
I'm just trying to get, it's like floor repair. That sounds like a really unsexy thing, but I would think that is just normal maintenance repair for the airport. So why do we need to put money towards that if that's already covered by a maintenance repair budget?
Right, it would just allow us to have that money to spend on something else, right? It's just a matter of what pot you take it out of, whether you take it out of Measure J or whether you take it out of our cash, so. I think the shade structure, there's been a lot of demand for shade, and I think really, in my opinion, the shade out along the middle island, Uber and the taxis is gonna be a pretty big one, assuming that we can get that through the historical folks with the protection of the building. There's a lot of unknowns there, but I think that would be next on our list.
We get a lot of complaints about shade, especially for Uber and taxi stand area, a lot. That's probably outside like carpet and restrooms, that's probably actually the top one overall on the dock.
Commissioner Young, you had a question, and then we'll go to you, Commissioner Banks.
Chairman, perhaps two questions. So is it useful for us to frame this if essentially we're going to support funding of priorities that are already high level priorities that would otherwise be funded somehow? Is it essentially to give you all flexibility in the future for something that we're not necessarily even talking about now, to have the discretion to spend the replaced funds that way? And is that a meaningful way to frame this? You
know my opinions. If things are funded, like the bathrooms, we're sitting on a pile of cash. We're gonna fix the bathrooms, right? So to use Measure J funds to reduce the cost of the bathrooms by $1.5 million when we're gonna find the money to fix those bathrooms, right? I think that's a waste of these funds. You know, carpeting is another good thing. You know, if you were saying we're gonna move to terrazzo flooring, rip out the carpets and put the original terrazzo floors back, well, that's a different story, right? They're actually under there. I know they're under there someplace. But, you know, I think the things that are part of the budget that you're gonna get approved, I think that's not what we would want for this exercise.
So my follow-up question, if I may, is assuming that that's the frame we take, which certainly aligns with my thinking, right? Assuming that's the frame we take, Jeremy, do you and staff then see things on this list that you otherwise would say, oh, that would not be something that we would automatically fund, but we believe would be meaningfully contributing to the traveler experience, right? So things that you wouldn't normally prioritize because they wouldn't rise to the top, but given discretionary funds, you would prioritize. If you frame it that way, well, the top.
Right. That would be tough. I mean, I think that eventually we're gonna wanna try to request another grant from Visitor Greater Palm Springs to help with the shade out in front, but I think they only authorize us up to a certain amount. I think it's only 100, so it doesn't cover a whole lot. And those shade structures are expensive, so.
What's $1 million?
Yeah.
And just keep in mind that, Visit Greater Palm Springs does the same for our city. And I have a strong feeling that they will continue to offer that every year.
Right, so I think that's gonna be, you know, it's gonna, once we play with each year's budget and try to figure out what we can fit in and what we can't, I think that's a pretty valid project there, the shade. You know, we're gonna figure out a way to fund the parking revenue system, because that's a pretty key item. The automated exit lanes, we're trying to actually put together an RFP for that right now to put it out. Let's see, going down the list here.
Yeah, so just for clarity, just so I understand, so the fiscal year that's listed on here, is that the year that you're expecting to get approval from city council for that budget item? Is that?
I'm pretty sure, right? Is that when we have it in our?
They're not approved now, but
some of them have been approved with, when we put out the budget for fiscal year 24 and 25.
okay.
So there are some that we have already decided to fund through our own airport budget.
Okay.
And like Jeremy was saying, this 1.3, eventually 1.5 million, could go towards those projects, and it wouldn't have to come out of the airport fund. That would be essentially what it is. Some of them have not been funded yet. And those are the ones that are probably in 2026 and ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Banks, you had a question?
Well, I was just gonna ask about the parking revenue system. I heard you say it's could be part of the budget, but is there an opportunity for that to become further revenue generating for the parking area overall, this new system, or is it more just about having a better parking lot experience?
I think both. Yeah, I mean, I think all of the above. I think there's advantages to, you can create more automated exit lanes. There's a lot of things that you could do, probably more things that we're talking about doing. with, you know, doing things through the website and being able
Like a
to.
reservation system.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are things that you can do with a new upgraded system.
Okay.
But that's in the budget.
Sounds.
I don't think is it currently in the next year's
The
budget?
parking revenue
Is.
is, but
It's in the budget.
it's budgeted.
I think the monument signs, that's a pretty, you know, that might be a hard one for us to try to figure out how to plug in.
Then we could get, it was damaged because of the storm.
Yes.
And knowing that quite a bit of the dollar will be funded by the state.
I've been told they won't fund things like that. It's more of infrastructure damage, like if it does a road or a wall, they don't do that type of, signage.
Commissioner White?
Sorry, can I ask what the intent of the Measure J was initially of the legislators? Why did they tax this money? I think it's like a hotel tax.
I'll share with you that in 2009, the city decided to implement a 1% sales tax. And for 25 years. The intent was that we generate about 300 million over the 25 years. And now the numbers are coming in at 600 when it's all said and done. There's a huge difference, and this is lobbying by the folks to, hey, we need to create good customer experience and so.
So that was the original intent of the bill, was to do things that are accretive to tourism in Portsmouth.
And number one was the other fashion plaza. Yeah, downtown.
Yeah.
Downtown. That was horrible at that time.
Commissioner White, you have a question?
Is it imperative that we vote tonight? I'd like to see this spreadsheet maybe in a different little format where the stuff that's partially budgeted is in one group and maybe budgeted in another and not budgeted at all, but nice to have in another, so that, because I have no idea how to look at this stuff.
I thought our agreement was that anything that was budgeted would be taken off this sheet. So if some things are budgeted, like we talked about tonight, then it would leave things like shade structure, charging stations, workstations, the water fill stations, the mid-century outdoor seating.
Yes, Dan.
Real quickly, I know we're in a process of new build down the line. And my question would be, would Measure J pay for marketing? Because we're gonna have to market this nice new shiny penny that we're going to have, or does that come out of some other budget? Marketing of Palm Springs Airport, outreach to get our liners and companies to come fly with us.
That's another budget.
No.
Yeah.
That's another budget.
To the best of my knowledge, that was only to capital projects pertaining to the downtown itself.
Okay.
Just like we've done a lot of road repair. Park that is next to downtown. All of those funds. Thank you.
So just responding to Commissioner Wise, I think maybe a preliminary vote might be informative for us to get a temperature of the room. And then hopefully we can get a new version of this to do a more formal vote. And we will get, just a tally of responses along with authority on what's budgeted, partially budgeted, et cetera. Next month.
But is there a deadline for Measure J?
No.
No.
The money's been sitting there since 2018.
Yeah.
Yes, to go along with what Kevin said, could this be used as a step one to just pare the list down for the next meeting?
Well, if you eliminated all the stuff that's budgeted, what would come off this list?
I can take that, okay, I'll just go down the list and I will say if it is budgeted, because Commissioner Park, I stand corrected, there were some items down on the list that are not budgeted, so let me just go down the list and I'll say item budgeted. So a portion of the shade structure is not budgeted. The Wi-Fi consultant and installation budgeted. Shade structure at the Uber Lyft taxi, not budgeted. Restroom capacity and ADA renovations budgeted. Carpet replacement, main terminal lobby and security checkpoint, not budgeted. Parking revenue, budgeted. Variable message signage, budgeted. Automated exit lanes, budgeted. RJ concourse terminal improvements, not budgeted. Concession space, master plan will advise, not budgeted. Bono flooring, repair and resurface exterior concrete floor, not budgeted. Conference meeting rooms, not budgeted. Desert landscape conversion, not budgeted. Wayside or landside wayfinding improvements, not budgeted. Charging stations inside concourses, not budgeted. Playscape, not budgeted. Quiet airport technology, not budgeted. 4 monument signs, not budgeted. And then the last 3, not budgeted.
So based on that, and the knowing that we are receiving in South Carolina, Palm Springs, and knowing that also the summer months are so brutal. And our convention folks are really targeting conventions during the summer months to create a year-round environment for us.
The shade structure seems to be the obvious one.
Yeah, definitely could be standing there at 110, 115 degrees. And during that time, the transportation is not that easily available.
So the question would be, $1 million for Uber, Lyft, taxi. And are you gonna find that $140,000, or you have to go find that for the phase 1?
No, we have that budget.
All right, so we can take it off. So, I know we're gambling here. Could we at least agree initially, $1 million for the shade structure, that we all could support that? Because I think that would be the biggest swing, I think. Do you agree?
Yes, especially because we're hearing about it on media.
Yeah. So, folks on Zoom, so with us so far? Then the question would be, if we take $1 million, now we got $500,000 left. How would we use that money? Anybody want to propose?
Yes, I do.
David?
Yeah, I heard, I believe it was Victoria, say that shade structures within the interior, beyond security of the airport airside, is only partially budgeted. Is that correct, Victoria? Is that what you said?
That's correct.
And what's
I
the
thought you
amount?
just said it was budgeted. You just
Jeremy,
asked the question.
okay,
David.
Jeremy said it wasn't.
Jeremy just said
I mean,
it
it
was.
was, Jeremy said it was.
Okay, shade structure phase 1, it is budgeted, sorry, 140,000, so please correct yourself.
Yeah, so Commissioner Feldman, the 140,000 listed for the shade area phase 1 is budgeted.
And can somebody define what phase 1 is?
That's TSA, the RJ walkways, everything inside security.
Well, not the walkway, so it's the outdoor seating area, the RJ, yep, and then as you get outside TSA, the recombobulation area, right there, yep.
And what's the amount for phase 2 that's not budgeted, and how much, and what does that encompass?
That's being proposed for $1 million.
Yeah, that's essentially phase 2.
It would be the Uber, Lyft, taxi would become phase 2, or it would now become part of phase 1 if we decide to put $1 million towards that, David.
Okay, so I'm having in terms of mathematics, it seems to me that $140,000 will cover everything we need for RJ and outside TSA, but it's $1 million to do shade structures by the Uber and taxi. I'm having a hard time seeing that 140,000 will cover all of the airside. That sounds out of balance to me.
Well, we're also receiving $100,000
Right, from Visitor Greater Palm Springs as part of that phase 1.
for phase 1.
As a grant.
Yeah,
Right,
I imagine the size of these two structures are wildly different.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so it's a much bigger structure on the street side. That's why it's $1 million, right? Okay. Other question, comment here? Yeah.
So when I look through the list, I think, the carpet replacement makes sense to fill in that last $500,000 that we're looking to replace. Playscape, you know, from a personal perspective, is having a young kid, that's definitely something that's also intriguing. And then the water fill stations would also fit in there. When I look at the Bono flooring, I think that's another item that's really impacted by the master plan, because, you know, obviously.
And concessions.
And concessions.
So you're proposing carpet replacement and water fill stations,
Yeah.
which would get us to have another $500,000. Other proposals, thank you for that. Other proposals.
Just have a question about the idea of conference meetings. Is that a revenue generating thing? I mean, obviously, I don't see, meet me at gate 15 anywhere. So what are we talking about with the use of the villa, part of the office, part of the structure here for conference and meeting rooms?
I can take that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's actually for this room. So we have a bunch of problems with our audio visual, so we were hoping that we can actually make this very similar to like council chambers is what we were hoping for, where we would do some sounding around the room. We would actually put some AVI and then a better screen, better just better cameras, better audio. So that was the intent there. So you asked if it would be revenue generating, and the answer is yes, because we wouldn't only use it for our meetings, it would also be extended out to the airlines and other tenants of the airport here. So we could generate some revenue from it as well.
But it wouldn't necessarily meet the criteria of customer service impact. As much as we'd love to have a better room here. Others?
I still advocate the outdoor seating and restoration of those benches, traffic receptacles and planting according to the information in the packet.
So you'd advocate for the outdoor seatings. Others?
I like the idea of charging stations, even if modified to a smaller, even for spend $200,000 and make some improvements as opposed to roll out.
Jeremy, that's $1 million.
What do we have plugged in charging stations?
It shows on million.
It's
Yeah, well,
like the kiosk, what's the word? It's like a work thing you see.
right,
There's a bunch of chairs you plug it in and.
but some of the issue is that we may have to trench through the flooring to be able to get in, exactly. So when you're talking about that, because we just don't have the outlets in good spaces throughout either building. And so we're gonna have to do some design, and we're gonna have to trench. So that means tear carpet, trench, get into certain locations to have those charging.
Well, potentially too, like RJ's almost has electrical capacity, and to add stuff there, we have to actually run more power to the converse add plugins.
So that's why you gotta be out that number, because it may.
But Kevin brings up a good point. That is the master plan thing. We put it in the new buildings.
So almost everything in here is.
Yeah, well,
It's kind of like, what do we do that, you know?
well, okay, others, other people want to advocate for any others?
David, I'm surprised you're so quiet.
Commissioner White, you had a question?
No, I just, the shade for Uber, I have a lot of friends that come in and do Uber, and that's one thing they complain about is no shade out there in that parking space.
I think when you look at $1 million, we have $1.5 million. You look at that as $1 million price tag, considering all the feedback we get, I think that's a no-brainer. Okay, others?
Just one question. So, how comfortable do we feel with the $1 million estimate? Because what I'm thinking of is, you know, how things are coming in these days way over what we are estimating. And I want to make sure that there's plenty of money there to pay for this. I do think it's a great idea, by the way, and I do think the Measure J Commission would go for it. I think it's excellent for the customer of the airport. I'm wondering if maybe we pick another project and make it optional if we don't go, so we can do something with the money that we have.
We were told that you are very creative and if the numbers go up and come up.
Jeremy has the numbers, right, Jeremy?
Yeah.
It's like no pressure. I hear what you're saying. Maybe we can put things in priority. That would be first. Okay, let me make a suggestion. We're gonna vote on the whole thing in a second, but we're all cool with $1 million for the stage trip, we're all in for that. This shade infrastructure, say that fast. So we have 3 other things. We have carpet replacement for 400 grand. We have a water fill station for 50. And then we have the mid-century outdoor seating for 100 grand, maybe a little bit less than that. Could the airport, this gets back to, carpet replacement. Is this really a capital project or something appropriate for Measure J? Could you kick in some other money for that? Because if you estimated 300,000, then we could do the other 2 things. And then now we really have an array of things to do it. So is it reasonable to say, we're gonna do the shade structure, we're gonna do the water fill stations, 10 of them, brand new, that'll be a nice impact. We'll look at the outdoor seating, see if we can do that, and then get us a better price for the carpet replacement, like the airport should kick in for some of that, and the balance would be Measure J. Is that reasonable? And then again, if the shade structure comes in at $1.5 million, that's a whole other story. Because I just hate to spend $400,000 of Measure J money on carpet when the airport should be paying for the carpet. However, if we can speed it up by subsidizing some of it, that may not be a bad idea. So I'll repeat it. Shade structures, water stations, the outdoor seating piece, and then a piece of the new carpet.
And in that priority order, if the shade structure overruns.
Yeah, it waits.
I'd rather have the carpet as number 2. I think that's where you had some liability. You've got rips, tears.
I don't disagree. I think the airport should pay for part of it.
Well, I think this is a great opportunity to expedite that, especially it's another thing that we hear on social media, the carpet looks dingy. It reflects poorly on the building interior.
If we pay for part of it, I agree. If we pay for part of it, could you guys find the money to pay for the balance?
Yeah.
Sure. We're sitting on a pile of money here. Okay. All right, so we vote on that? Yes. All right, priority will be the shade structure, carpet, water, and then the outdoor structures, the seating structures. And to your point, Kevin, we'll go ahead and we'll price these all out. Now we have these 4, we hand it off to staff. We got the money, come back and tell us. Does that work for you? All right.
There might be money left over.
And there may be more money. Hey, Margaret, I think we should get some sort of a joint thing on the carpet.
I disagree, but I agree. I'm okay with that.
All right. Mr. Chair, does that sound good to you?
Absolutely, especially knowing that a shade structure, in my opinion, will create a huge, great customer experience.
And I think another thing is the fact that what will the Measure J people be happy about? I think these 4 suggestions really do pay off the whole promise of having an impact on customer experience. So I'd like to propose that that's what we take and how we use the money. And then we hand it off to staff to verify all these costs. They come back to us, we go to Measure J, get their approval, and then you got the money to spend, Chris. Make sense?
Do you need a motion with that?
Please.
I'd like to clarify one more time, because I was a little confused about the carpet priority list. So when you named them off, you said shade was the first priority, then carpet, then the water.
The seating.
And then the seating, that's correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the asterisk around the carpet is, I'd love to have the airport pay for half of it.
Okay.
Because we have the cash to do it. Second? Let's go.
We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Merriman?
Yes.
Caldwell?
Yes.
Corcoran?
Yes.
Dada?
Yes.
Delgado? Denise Delgado, are you still with us? Commissioner Delgado? Okay, we'll take a no, or we'll take a Feldman,
Yes.
Fong,
Aye.
Hughes,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Michaelis,
Yes.
Park,
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
Suero,
Yes.
Wise,
Yeah.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Young.
Yeah.
We'll try Delgado.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good work. Appreciate your patience in the process, and thank you to staff and finance for helping us out with this.
Worked out great.
That's. Move on to market and air service update.
I think we'll take questions, everything was sent out, if you have any questions on it, I had time to go over it.
We did. We skipped we're actually at 8B, Airport Master Plan Update.
Oh, sorry, we skipped that.
Okay, well, I can provide just a quick update, kind of what's been happening over the last month or so. We obviously had the public open house, and that was about a month ago. I think it was on September 19th. Pretty well attended, about 160 plus. It was very well attended. We had 875 unique users visited the master plan website that week. 400 visitors downloaded the master plan documents, and there were 42 respondents that provided comments. So I think overwhelming success of that event. And you can, if you want to chime in and chat about that, we can. And then we met last week, our working group, the Airport Master Plan Working Group, met on October 12th, and we're still kind of working on the refinement of the terminal concepts. So other than that, I think there isn't a whole lot else to report unless you have anything to add.
So there are 5 proposed designs. Most of you may have seen these earlier in earlier meetings, if not, you'll see them soon enough. And based on the feedback, the team brought back 2. We've gone from 5 to 2 that we're in the process now of considering and pros and cons and pricing out whatever. They're completely different. One is renovating this area, kind of keeping the Bono concourse, putting on an international terminal to the other side towards the north, and then going out and then east with additional things that will protect this building, keep this building as part of the plan. And the second is ironically where the staff was surprisingly when these 5 were first presented, and that was build a brand new airport on the south side. Right, this building would become something else like a museum, and you'd have a completely new airport that would cost more money, but would cost a lot less to operate. And so those of us who were on the master plan committee all thought we were going in with like, I want this, or I like this, whatever. The staff, of course, sit down, of course, but the staff would say, hey, here's the benefits of a brand new building. But when you start to get into the details, the trade-offs are really, really significant. So we're going to be taking this to the commission in November. Is that we agreed to? A deep dive on this for the December meeting?
Sure.
It'll be the proposed special meeting in December.
Very special meeting in December. We'll talk about that in a minute. And we'll do a deep dive with the whole commission. And you can see the pros and cons of each. And all I can tell you is I don't think it's going to be a lot harder than I thought. That was the thing. Because there's some really significant trade-offs here. But I think the plans are exciting. And I think this will, either one will have a significant impact on the airport and what the city, how the city is perceived and everything else. I think they're both very exciting options. So in our December meeting, we'll have answers to a lot of questions that were raised in the master plan group. And we'll come back in December, we'll do a deep dive. So all of you will have a chance to get your fingerprints on this. And then we'll make a recommendation that eventually will go to city council in February. And then January or February, and then we're off to the races. So.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, sir? Anything else?
For the 2 proposals that have been distilled out. What I hear is 1, renovate West Door, add international instead of New York. And the other one, your brand new airport in the south.
If you go into the master plan, it's all public. You go into it's 1A and 3.
1A, not 1B.
1A and 3 are the 2 that have been proposed. So if you dig into the chapters of master plan, that's the direction that the team has suggested.
And my question was, do both of those yield up 32 games?
Yeah. Yeah. And they both have phasing projects over the 20 years. So you're phasing in like 8 gates at a time. One moves faster than the other. I mean, again, I don't want to get too far into the weeds. Take a look at them and get a point of view. When we get together in December, we'll walk you through the pros and cons, and we'll probably have some sort of a prep sent out ahead of time, so you can read ahead and get a flavor for where it's going. But it's pretty exciting, and I think you'll be pleased in the direction. We're just gonna have some tough decisions. It's gonna be a tough decision.
I think it's gonna be pretty polarizing. Really, you know, there'll be two camps and there won't be a lot of people on the fence.
Fair enough.
Any questions on the Zoom? Right, we move on to marketing and ad service. Any questions for them?
Is this on the churro there?
Not yet.
No.
Market. Daniel's report is included in the pre-work that's been sent out ahead of time. Daniel, 2 questions. One question and a comment. Talk about what Jake's responsibilities are going to be relative to yours and the scope of that job and that thing. Just give us a flavor for who's doing what. Then I have a comment.
Yeah, so Jake's title is communications and marketing specialist. He'll be handling basically everything communications. He'll be reporting to me, of course. Has got all the communication work from media and social media, community engagement, and events, type of things.
Make all sense? Second thing is, with all the drama over the logos and the website and everything else, the stuff that you guys are cranking out is really good.
Oh, thank you.
It's really good. A lot of people are noticing. I don't know if any of you are on Facebook or Instagram. It's very, very clever and it's classy. Are you getting good feedback?
Yeah, comments, I think. I'm glad you noticed, glad you like it. I don't know if you're talking about, we have our latest campaign we have going, looks like the not home for the holidays or not holidays campaign. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't seen that yet.
That one just launched a week and a half ago, and previous years we've kind of done a whole, fly home for the holidays from Palm Springs, do the whole family thing. And then this year, my husband and I were actually having a conversation about having all that time off around that time of year. Maybe we should go on vacation, do something different. And it reminded me of the movie Four Christmases with Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn, if you guys remember it. Basically, so we're kind of like doing a play off that one where people are we're basically saying the holidays, it's your holiday, choose, spend it your way. And it has text threads, people tell their family, oh, I can't come, I'm too busy with work, and they're actually on the beach texting home. So we're kind of doing a fun play on, do your holiday vacation your way and start it at Palm Springs.
The execution's been great. I think the logos, the way the logos are being used are great. So kudos to your team.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And you have the presentation tomorrow with the Hospitality Association.
Any questions from the commissioners on Zoom regarding the marketing and air service update? Commissioner Fong, you have a question?
Who is handling the interface with Visit Greater Palm Springs with respect to the study for the federal immigration station?
So Harry's the primary point of contact for that, but that just kicked off, and I think that's in the executive director's report there in your packet that gives you some information on it.
Right.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Carpenter, the airport administration manager. Got it right this time. You know my title. So staff was requesting for the airport commission to take action and recommend to the city council to approve Turo, a peer-to-peer vehicle sharing service to operate at the airport and to enter into an agreement. By entering into an annual agreement, Turo will contribute significant non-aeronautical revenue to the airport. Indirectly, this will play a pivotal role in funding our future capital projects. The proposed agreement offers a competitive 10% gross revenue share to the airport. We also considered different operational models, including open parking and curbside parking, to provide passengers with convenient options. And we decided to designate 2 parking spaces in our commercial vehicle lane for Turo to operate out of, as well as the public parking. So they can still, or they can operate by parking their vehicle in public parking, and then the passenger would have to pay to get the vehicle out. So we're also getting still our parking revenue as well. We have reached out to neighboring airports like Ontario, LAX, SAN, and they also have a negotiated 10% of gross receipts. So this is also an industry standard. So we are still getting the best deal. You may or may have not heard that there was an assembly bill that was recently approved by Governor Newsom that states that Turo has to have operating agreements in place by July 2024. So Turo did reach out to us, and they were the ones that were trying to make that good faith so that we can have a good partnership going forward. So, estimated, peak season, we're thinking that we'd probably get about, 1,500 transactions a month. And then in our low season, about 450 to 600, transactions a month. But ultimately, that is gonna bring the airport, about $400,000, in revenue for over a year.
Can we get that in advance, include the overrun on?
Get more chairs.
But yeah, so does anybody have any questions?
I do, sorry.
Go ahead.
So the curbside parking, 2 spots, I think is what you said.
Yes.
Is it by the Uber place or is it right at the curbside?
So it's actually the commercial vehicle lane. So it's kind of, it's adjacent to the Uber Lyft. It's a little bit further south, but it's over there.
How long can they park there?
So it's less than 24 hours. We're supposed to turn them around really quickly. Because typically their Turo drops are, somebody will bring, like the owner will bring their vehicle, they'll drop it off there probably maybe like an hour beforehand. And then the passenger will come and pick it up and drive off with the vehicle.
Thanks.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, Richard, do you anticipate, I mean, as the agreement, is in full, will it bring significantly more vehicles to parking, especially in the season when it's bringing?
It could, and it would only be for a short period of time. We're thinking maybe they would probably be more in that like hour time frame versus like the 24-hour time period. Of course, the 24-hour you're paying for the daily rate, and that's typically not what happens. They usually are just paying the hourly rate. But so to answer your question, we'd like to say that yes, that is the case, but we're not 100% sure. We're gonna need to like watch it over the next year. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then
one comment, one question. So I would say have City Hall assess the free parking nearby City Hall on the streets. Because that's where I picked up my rental car last time I drove it at the airport, and obviously it has an impact on your expectation of parking revenue from this agreement.
Sure.
And then I was wondering, how does this compare to what, say, the rental car agencies pay us through their fees?
So, well, that's one thing. The rental car agencies, they also pay a 10% revenue share. So it's in line with what they're paying. However, with Turo, they do not pay the customer facility charges. So and that's also been a topic of discussion, but there are not any other airports that charge a customer facility charge to the Turo company. It was something that we also took into account, and when we were typing up our agreement, we wanted to make sure that if anything changes, that would be something that we would be able to incorporate in there. So hence, that's why we're doing the 1-year agreement, which will continuously renew, but we'll always take a look at it at least 6 months ahead and just see if there's anything new that happens. We're specifically with the CFCs, because that will be some more revenue for the airport.
And do you have any idea how rental car companies feel about this?
They're not in favor of Turo.
Surprise. Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that the anticipated model would be that the person with the car would come here an hour or two ahead of time, and then will be before the person passenger land. Leave the car here, because they've arranged that this person is going to rent their car for next week or whatever it's going to be. My question is an odd one, is that, do we know that this is the way it's going to work? In other words, I am a little concerned about the impact on parking for other folks who just generally, you know, they come here, they're gonna pick up and leave. And so they're running around circling, trying to find a parking space.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, I know that that's sort of the anticipated model, but do we have a sense of whether it's gotten out of hand? And people tend to leave their cars here, let's say overnight, in anticipation of a pickup tomorrow.
It's a possibility. If it's something that's out of the agreement, then we do have ABM, which is our parking management company, which, once the contract gets executed, fully executed, then we keep them in the loop on it so that they're always in communications with our operations staff. So if Turo's in any type of violation of their contract, then we can reach out to Turo and they can actually remedy it. And ways they can remedy it is by removing that user that's like giving up their vehicle for use and not have them operate anymore. There's like little fines and what's the term I'm trying to use? They're able to reprimand. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. The user of the vehicle. So the one that is actually putting their vehicle out there.
So would that be a violation? Say somebody leaving their car here a day or two in advance, the arrival of the resident.
Well, we would also be getting revenue as well from our parking. So that would also be something. So if it's in those two spaces, then that's definitely going to be a problem. Turo is probably going to be concerned about it because they're going to want to turn those vehicles. As far as for the parking, that's probably a little bit different because we're still getting the revenue for parking. And it is still a passenger that's coming in. I mean, presumably it is a passenger that's coming in and using the parking space.
Right, and most likely they're not gonna be parking overnight, right? Because that just adds to they might as well rent a car because they're just adding to the value of what they're gonna have to pay to rent a car or to use a car.
Other questions? Zoom, anybody on Zoom have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Can the staff do some work before this thing gets implemented on signage? Because we're now adding another type of parking service that we're offering. And when we did the overflow lots, everybody knows my experience with this, or existing people on the commission. We've talked about this a lot. Could we just be really careful about how we designate signage for this new additional type of service that affects the driving experience at the airport, driving/parking?
Yes, Commissioner Felton, thank you for your feedback. And I don't know if you've seen, but we did add some really beautiful signage over there in the economy lot. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. But yes, we will definitely take that into account.
Thank you very much.
All right, no other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, just a real quick one. Is it the expectation that this 400,000 is incremental new money, or is it just cannibalizing existing rental car money?
It would be, we are hoping that it is new money. But we won't be able to tell how much of a difference we're gonna see in rental car drops if more vehicles. Actually, I take that back. So currently, as Commissioner Wiseman had mentioned, at the May meeting, Toro has been operating here since 2021. Okay, so this is new revenue that the airport will be getting.
So fundamentally, they're doing guerrilla operating right now, like people just are gonna do it and it's happening whether we like it or not. The situation though has changed now legislatively because they have to get an agreement.
So let's do the money.
In a way, I feel like it's a bit unfair that we're giving a different deal to the rental companies at the terminal. Especially knowing that come next, was it June, July? They can't just go around us. I don't know if we think the parking revenue somewhat compensates or will be equivalent to the CFC revenue. But I would like to see those things be equal and also anticipating Commissioner Fong's concerns that it doesn't hurt our parking during the high peak demands. So we probably want to make sure that in peak times, they're getting pushed to the overflow lots, not taking up a spot right up front.
Right.
Okay.
Is the proposed contract for 1 year
Yes,
and re-examination at the end of that?
absolutely.
So are there any airports that use a model where Turo is confined to a specific part of the parking lot or has their own area or?
I'm not sure about that. I do know that there's some that have their own area. Like for instance, if they have a consolidated rental car facility, they'll have Turo in there as their peer-to-peer car sharing. But the first part of your question, I'm not sure about. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, with no other questions, are you ready to vote?
Yes.
Do you wanna just clarify the motion, please?
Okay, so, Christina, do you want to?
Yeah, the motion is to recommend the city council the approval of an agreement with Turo.
For 1 year?
We can put for 1 year, yes, sir.
Go move. Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Do we have to go this? We're gonna go.
Wait, and I'm sorry, hold on, and reviewed on an annual basis through the approval of the executive director of aviation. I don't know, that makes a difference.
No, that's how that goes.
Okay.
I'm only kidding.
All right, we'll take the roll call vote. Adams,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
Berriman,
Yes.
Caldwell.
Yeah. Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Delgado,
Yes.
Feltman,
Abstain.
Fong, Hughes,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Michaelis,
Yes. Un abrazo, desgraciado.
Hart. Yes. Hi. Suero,
Yes.
and Suero, can you please mute your mic? Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes, but we really need to push hard on before next year.
noted. Young,
Yes.
thank you, the motion passes.
All right, Victoria, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, financial summary from Victoria. Everyone has their financial summaries in their packets. Victoria, you want to give us the high?
So the highlight is that Airport is doing very well. But if you do have any questions, you're welcome to ask. Let me know.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Anyone on Zoom have any questions regarding the financial summary?
No, very clear.
Thank you.
Concessions, Jeremy, you want to start?
Sure, so there is a concessions projected opening day schedule in your packet there. And just a quick comparison kind of what has slid or what has not slid from last month to this month. Really, only really a couple things have slid a little bit. The Pink Door and iHeart PSP vending has slid a little bit. And that's due to only one contractor bidding on that, and so they've had to rebid that out, and that's slid a little bit, but that's obviously not as important as maybe some of the stores, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But the majority of the other, the dates have pretty much stuck from last month to this month, so that's good. Currently under construction of note would be El Marisol, Coachella Valley Coffee, and then also barricade just went up recently, I think it was last week, for 9 cities. So it's good to see the progress, and there'll be more barricades going up and more things under construction over the next couple of months. So that's it for my update, unless anybody has any questions.
And I've got an update for you as well. Any questions on this at timing? We're all good. Daniel, I asked you about, is there going to be signage that promotes these new places? I know I saw one. What's your plan on that?
Yeah, so we have, we're working with Perry's and MRG. When all the dust bills started going up, when the retail shop was gonna be Las Palmas, is gonna have, what is it, 40-foot barricade?
Yeah.
That's gonna have all kinds of like coming soon logos, like so say Photo Concourse, RJ, Courtyard, etc. Then we have more signage coming. I actually gonna put some out sooner, but we pulled the sign boards out of the closet and they were just not in good condition, so I had to order some new ones. Those should be delivered in the next 2 weeks. So we're putting new signage around. Just basically that message is gonna be kind of like what's open, people look at things, what's open, and talk a little bit about how we're doing. They're also gonna have QR codes, a terminal map, and directions on where to go, where to find things, like some temporary signs I want to put up. In a courtyard, if you're gonna have information on it saying no restaurant this direction under construction, closure construction, and a signage pointing to directing people to all the other open locations they can't find it, so. And then of course, we also keep the website updated, so everything that goes to our website looking for any concessions, retail, restaurants, etc. It says on there what's open, what's coming soon, all kinds of stuff on there. So.
Thanks for the comment.
Yes.
For those of you who knew, there was an ad hoc design subcommittee that was created to work with Verity's staff and also the Marshall Group to talk about the requirements for naming, design, and what's going to be sold and where it's going to be sold. Just FYI, that committee includes Gerald Adams, Todd Burke, who's not here tonight, David Feldman, and Kevin Wiseman. We work with staff and these two organizations to go through the designs, go through the naming and all that. So we've been involved with that. One of the things we said that was important was that both in the retail as well as the beverage side, there was significant commitment to local brands and local products. That's going to give you a quick readout that today the Marshall Group had a session where they invited potential vendors on the retail side to come and show their wares. And 4 people led the deal from the Marshalls Group. I'll tell you about them in a second. And it was held at Greater Palm Springs, their offices in Rancho Mirage. 60 people showed up to this, more than they had ever expected. And what the team did for Marshall Group is they reviewed the overall objectives and really paid off our priority of making sure that things are centric to the desert overall, Palm Springs specifically. I think they did a fabulous job reflecting the priorities the commission had set out when we started this project in 2019. They really made the point of they want stuff that's really going to be connected to the city and to the Palm Springs experience. They did a great job. And then they talked about the criteria for selection. And everyone was there, from like cookie makers to jewelry makers to t-shirt people to also there's a whole array of products or people representing different products. And so they had a really interesting discussion around what works in an airport and what doesn't. And I think people learned a lot from that. And each of the groups were split up into 3 different places, and it was like a live version of Shark Tank. You were with someone from Marshall Group and you had a community and showed your stuff. And, interesting, some items were just too big, and they would say like, no one's going to be able to fit that in their suitcase, or no one's going to have it fit it into a bag. There was smaller stuff, and they said, oh, that will really sell in an airport. So it was interesting just to see what was being pitched and also the feedback that was given. And I think all the vendors really appreciated how transparent they were in this process and, really explaining what sells in the airport, what doesn't sell. So went through several different rounds, and I think it went on for about 2.5 hours. And I think everyone that we talked to felt good about the process. They understood what we were looking for and what Marshall Group was looking for. And we're excited. The next step is that they will whittle this list down and they'll come back to staff and back to our ad hoc group and give us a sneak preview of what they're going to will be featured in their stores. Just a shout out, Victoria and Jeremy. The team was right on message. They were great. And David Hoffman, who is going to be the general manager representing all of Marshall Group at the airport, he was stellar. He was great. And I think when we all meet him in subsequent meetings, they're going to be really pleased. The folks from Las Vegas, the 3 other principals from them did a great job. So I think people felt heard, they felt represented, and we had a lot of different ideas. So thrilled to report that and to say that we're on our way. And I think you'll be really pleased with what's going to be offered in these stores moving forward. So kudos to the commissions team and ad hoc folks. We'll continue to monitor how things are going. And obviously, Jeremy, you've got the lead on the schedule. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Projects and airport capital improvement.
That report was provided in the airport, in the commission agenda packet by Airport Executive Director Harry Barrett.
Any questions on any of that? I just had one question that I can't get my hands on it now, but there's some projects that are stuck and waiting for permits. Are we having issues with some of the construction stuff that's doing here and getting permits to the city?
Yes. Yes. But I think the city, the new building official is trying his best to help us. There's a lot of really good folks down there permitting and planning and engineering, and they're doing their best. They're just transitioning to a new system and new people, and so they're still trying to work out a lot of kinks. But in terms of the concessions, we have a lot of things there that are taking a long time.
Is it going to affect our schedule?
It may a little bit, yes, and we're trying our best to have, we have weekly meetings with Dana and Tasia down at building department, and I think that's been really helpful to make sure that our stuff is at the front of the list, and we're pushing as much as we can push. So
let's make a note to just report back to us next month and just let us know how we're doing. Any questions on capital improvement projects? Anything else we can ask? Executive Director report, same thing. Harry's put as reported.
That is correct.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Unfortunately, Harry's not here tonight to answer them. Folks on Zoom, we're okay?
Well, I'm responsible for preparing the marketing and service update.
Again, I don't. Okay, commissioners' requests and reports. I'll just start with one. A year ago, September, we got the whole commission together, went off to City Hall, and we did a one-day offsite strategic planning offsite. The intent was to get everybody up to speed on all the key issues. So we all were talking the same language. We had the same understanding of who does what for the airport and what are the strategic priorities we had. I think people come out of it a lot smarter. Obviously now we have a long-term plan. So a lot of that stuff is being funneled into that project. And of course we have concessions and other things that are moving forward. With all the new commissioners on board, we're proposing to do a truncated version of this. And the date that's been proposed is December 6th. It's a Wednesday. And it would be a 1 to 4 p.m. Where we would both do a strategic planning exercise. And this would be a little bit different this time. Make sure I'm telling the truth, Christiana. The intent would be to have each of the major departments present.
No. Can I?
True?
No. So this would.
Does that change?
Yeah. So I had emailed you and explained, clarified. So the intent of this is to do a strategic planning session update where we would update on the projects that the commission had prioritized in the original strategic planning session. Now, staff's plan is in December 2024. The departments we're gonna do another strategic planning session, but a more in-depth strategic planning session where the departments would be presenting their goals for each department and how we're gonna achieve those goals.
And that's in 24.
Yes, sir. We need time. We're planning on having an on-call contract with a planner that would help facilitate that for us.
So we will look at where we left off, our strategic plan, and then more importantly, I think, the master plan and where we're going with the master plan. This is the proposed date and time. Does that work for everybody?
What was the time?
1 to 4 on Wednesday the 6th. And we're not thrilled about doing this over Zoom, but if enough people felt that would be helpful, we're certainly willing to do it over Zoom as well. We found when we had the first session that, you know, all the back and forth, and people really benefited from kind of talking to each other. So,
And this time we would need to do it here at our airport conference room because City Hall, now that we have a full 19-member commission, we wouldn't be able to hold it over at City Hall. So we'll be doing it here.
we okay? Okay, good. So we went and put that in everybody's calendar, and we'll send out a calendar invite to lock it in. The other piece is, I know you're doing a job fair. Do you want to give us a summary of that?
That'd be Victoria.
Oh, to do that, yes. So on next Tuesday, the airport is going to be hosting a job fair at the Palm Springs Convention Center from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We have about 10 different tenants, and even the city of Palm Springs is going to be there promoting the Palm Springs jobs for the airport, as well as other Palm Springs jobs, but we want them to focus on the airport a bit. But we're gonna have over 100 jobs, 100 positions from the different companies that are gonna be there. So there's gonna be some on-the-spot interviews. So if you wanna pass the word, that would be amazing. Jake actually prepared a media report, and so that should be coming out if it isn't out already.
Press release went out this morning.
There we go.
Facebook event is live, or events on Facebook and LinkedIn, both being promoted here in the valley, so.
So if you know anybody, send them over. We'll be there.
Any other commissioner requests, comments at this point? Okay, we'll move forward. Report of city council actions is in the packet, correct?
Correct.
Our prayer line report is also in the packet.
Correct.
Future committee meetings, just a note on committees. Commissioner Adams, you have agreed to chair the budget and finance committee, is that true? Yes. Awesome. So, on behalf of us, that's a thankless job. No, I mean, thank you for doing that. And I know that the budget committee and David Feldman and the operations committee, you'll let us know when your next meeting is scheduled to make sure all your members know as well. Yes. All right, good. All right, good. Are there any other comments or questions before we adjourn?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so now that we've doubled the staff in communications and marketing, I would like to request that we receive courtesy announcements and emails of things that are going to appear in the press that obviously the staff have communicated to the press. You know, usually the Palm Springs Post and the Desert Sun most commonly. I think it was surprising to me and several others that the announcement of Jake joining the staff was read by many of us in the Post as our first piece of information on this. The same has happened on airline announcements. Obviously, staff has spoken to the press when they have that information and they publish it, and we're reading about it at the same time as the public. I just think we all know how to use time release emails. If Palm Springs Post releases at 6 a.m., we can receive something at midnight or 5:30 or whatever staff decides is appropriate. I think that's a common courtesy for stakeholder communication. I hope we'll move towards that now that we have a bit more capacity, and realistically it maybe happens half a dozen times a year, so I don't think this is a burdensome request. I think it's just a common courtesy request. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Feldman, we actually have the full commission, and with the new commissioner, we need to update our media list. We have the full commission on our media list, so any press release that's sent out, the commission is included at the same time as the press. So the commission does receive it before it goes public. Also, the article on Jake in the Post was not an airport press release. They approached Jake on his own outside of the airport or city communication channels, and it was done on their own. It was an individual thing between Jake and the Post. That wasn't done by the airport.
So, we got a lot of flack about Jake, not knowing it at a time, and because he's such a presence in this community, I think that was a mistake. Also, nobody was notified about the Rancho Relaxo outreach and asking vendors to come to this meeting today. So, can we agree that, to David's point, whether it's a press release or whether it's communications like this, that the commission knows first? And if not, and if the answer is yes, is that you? Will you be responsible to make sure that there are no surprises? Anything has to do with the airport, we should at least be advised before it goes public. Is it reasonable to ask, and are you the right person?
Well, the Rancho Relaxo thing, I didn't even know about that until it went out. I wasn't even included about that, so I couldn't have told you guys about it because I found out basically at the same time you did. And on thing, that's why I include you guys when we send things to the media, you get it at the same time, because it goes to the media, then it takes some time to get the stories written out to the public. So you guys do get it well ahead of the public. Typically the media press releases go out probably 7 to 8 a.m. They're public by like 9, 10 a.m. We get on social media later as well. So we do already put things on ahead for you guys.
So can we agree that we're gonna know ahead of time?
We'll just keep doing what we're doing, sure.
I think it's gonna be really tough to determine what we notify you all and what we don't. I think it is gonna be really tough, but.
It also could depend on what it is, how sensitive it is. Like an airline announcement is extremely sensitive, so we have to keep that very close to the chest and limit, very much limit who would know, even limit from the commission, keep it to only maybe a couple of people in the house. Depending on what it is, we can, but.
Yeah, I think probably should have a little bit more conversation maybe with Harry about kind of what meets the parameters of what should go out and what shouldn't. Because we're dealing with tons of stuff. I mean, we got tons of stuff going on. We don't have enough staff. We're juggling many different projects, and
yeah. Well, also
what gets notified, what doesn't, it can be challenging.
Yeah, also about Jake as well. Typically personnel issues aren't really the purview of the commission. So apologies, we should know ahead, but we typically don't tell people about it. We've hired many other people before Jake, and we didn't give heads up to the commission as well. So that's why that wasn't done, because it's normally at a position head level. It's not
right at staff level
anyways.
But a lot of corporations, when they hire people internally, will send notes around and say, we want to welcome Jake to us, and Jake is joining us. Do we do that internally for any hires we make?
We do that internally.
Why wouldn't we do
for airport staff, for department aviation, we have, yeah.
It's that type of communication. Here's the thing, I would err on the side of communication. All right, and the Rancho Relaxo was totally inappropriate. All right, someone from the staff had to know what was going on here. And knowing the concessions is one of our number one priorities this year. Something as important as that we should have known and we should have been advised. And all I'm just saying is that when it's important, and if you don't know, send it out and let us know what's going on. And I think that'll help. And maybe we learn along the way, but people shouldn't be in the dark. We shouldn't be getting calls as commissioners but not be able to respond.
Well, wasn't the Rancho Relaxo thing discussed at the last commission meeting before it went public?
The date
I wasn't here at that commission meeting, I wasn't here, but.
And we can discuss. We've discussed this a lot offline. Yeah. Something that's as important as our concessions thing should go, my opinion, through you. All right, it should also have your fingerprints on it.
Oh, I agree. I saw the invitation. I would have liked to have had some input, I will say. So I saw it.
Yeah, we'll try to make a better attempt.
So there's no
identify things.
All right, thank you guys. I know you're busy. I know it's overwhelming,
And
but
I do want to note that MRG, they did acknowledge that that's probably something they should have done, was ran it by airport staff, at least the invitation. So that is something that they definitely took accountability on.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. All right, anything else? Any other requests or favors? I guess we can just adjourn. We don't have to do it anymore. All right, thank you all for your work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.